Hi everyone, it's Juan CL again. Now this time we're gonna review the original Spider-Man movie made back in 2002. Now, the reason why I have both the VHS and DVD versions is because I'm a big collectibles person, and Spider-Man, the first movie, is a lot of copies. It has a lot of copies of the VHS in flea markets and local stores. I mean, I've had the VHS version for years, ever since the movie came out on VHS, and my uncle got it for me and my brother. My brother didn't seem to be much of a Spider-Man fan, but I was. And, of course, this is the 2002 movie, not the remake, because, as you can prove it, there's the old Columbia TriStar Home Entertainment logo, and there's Green Goblin right off of Spider-Man's eye, and there's Mary Jane and Spider-Man kissing in the rain. It's directed by Sam Raimi, and it's based on the comic books. Of course, if you are a big superhero fan, of course you should know that Marvel created Spider-Man and the Avengers and X-Men. And here's the DVD version. I got the full screen version because I love full screen movies. I don't really like widescreen, but most movies nowadays are in widescreen, including Blu-ray, so this is the DVD version, exactly the same, except the color is it's like a yellowish orange instead of a red like in the back of the VHS. And there's the back again, and this time it has special features, and it's a 2-disc set. I don't know if there's ever a single disc DVD, but I'm pretty sure there's a single disc for the Blu-ray. But this movie always comes in a 2-disc set, and it has the same one. There's a lot of special features, and if you put this on your computer, especially if you use this too, you will have a demo of the PC game of Spider-Man. You know, the PC game instead of the console version. Although there are hints and tips. So enough about the movie's, home media itself. Let's focus on the plot. Spider-Man begins with Peter Parker narrating, played by Tobey Maguire. He talks about his life in high school, and he goes on a trip to some sort of college, which is Columbia University, and he tries to soothe Mary Jane by taking pictures of her at that place. And of course, they were looking up spiders, and one of them happens to be missing. And then suddenly, the spider bites Peter as soon as Mary Jane walked away when he was taking pictures of her, and as soon he noticed that his spider bite came on. And as soon as he came back home, he didn't feel good. And he tried to tell his Uncle Ben and Aunt May that he's not feeling good. It was just sick, even though it was just side effects of him getting that spider bite. And then, bam, he turns into Spider-Man the next morning. Well, not yet. He has his powers, yeah, but he doesn't turn into his full costume until after Uncle Ben's death. But anyway, let's just move on back to some of the other characters. Mary Jane is an okay person, alright? For those of y'all who hate Mary Jane, it's alright. I don't really like Mary Jane that much compared to Gwen Stacy in the remake. We'll compare this movie to the remake a little bit later on whenever I review the remake. So let's just focus back on the plot of the first movie. Of course, the villain is the Green Goblin, who is supposed to be Norman Osborn, that's played by Willem Dafoe, and then there's his son Harry Osborn, played by James Franco, and of course, Harry is Peter's best friend. And of course, in this remake, Harry doesn't show up till the second movie. And of course, Norman only appears for a small moment in the remake, while in this one he's a major character. Of course, he's only dead in this movie after a while, but then in the sequels he only appears in flashback form and even hallucination form whenever Harry suffers from schizophrenia when he sees his dad in the mirror. But alright, so of course Peter got his powers, he comes to school. He finally gets bullied by Flash Thompson, who's supposed to be Mary Jane's ex-boyfriend, and of course they started fighting. Peter runs away because he thought he was in trouble, and next thing you know, he swings and he climbs, and next thing you know, he just went back home to just, I guess, talk with Mary Jane later on, and then after that, he wanted to find out getting a car because he thought cars could attract girls. He used to earn the money to buy being in a wrestling match, and he had to fight Bonesaw McGraw, who was played by none other than the late Randy Savage. Rest in peace, Randy Savage. He wins in less than 2 minutes. And of course, there's this one guy who gets the money, and next thing you know, it turns out that Peter should have stopped him because he thought he was Uncle Ben's killer. we don't want to talk about the rest of that plot until the third movie, so I don't want to be specific with that. Of course, Uncle Ben dies. Peter gets so sad and so mad, and then gets revenge. And of course, he feels bad, he shouldn't have done it, so then he finally realizes that with great power comes great responsibility, one of the most well-known comic book quotes ever. So of course he becomes Spider-Man, and of course Norman also became the Green Goblin. There's a lot of action scenes later on. It just gets more intense later on. The choreography in this movie is actually pretty good, even though it doesn't have as much CGI as the later movies, but this one has to be the most realistic, because some of the fighting scenes, like in the Oscorp Unity Festival scene, you know, where the Green Goblin first shows up fully, and next thing you know they fight on the balloons. Some of the fighting scenes look a little bit more realistic, like in some sort of circus sideshow, like the Nostalgia Critic said. So yeah, the movie goes on. Mary Jane finally gets to be with Peter, but she also tries to flirt with Harry, but that didn't turn out so well because she really likes Peter. But she doesn't really like Peter yet until the very end, because she prefers Spider-Man, because Spider-Man saves Mary Jane every time. Yeah, that's become a thing. Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and he loves Mary Jane, and Mary Jane loves him later on. So, of course, Green Goblin had to find a way to kill her and the rest of New York City. So, of course, he thought of a way to choose whether to save kids or save Mary Jane, and he did both. And then the Green Goblin got really mad. He got into a fist fight at the very end. It was intense. And then finally, he calls out his glide while he took off his mask to reveal himself. And then, bam, he's dead. And the movie ends pretty sad that there are already two characters that died. Uncle Ben and Norman Osborn. Even though Norman was supposed to be the villain, it would have been kind of nice if he was still, you know, a little bit alive, but should have been alive just for a little bit, because originally, in the original script for Spider-Man 2, Norman was supposed to return in ghost form to kill Peter Parker once again, but instead, one of the producers decided to choose Dr. Octopus as the main villain. So, of course, the movie ends pretty well, and Mary Jane finally gets to Peter, and then Peter gives up on her, which kind of disappoints a few fans, but it's normal. They'll be back together soon until the sequel. So, of course, the movie ends pretty nice. I don't want to go that specific with the whole story, but you know the story. If you haven't seen this movie, I recommend you to watch it with a friend or two. If you watch it by yourself, you're probably going to be like, what am I watching? This is so cheesy. But yeah, this movie is notorious for being cheesy. And I know this movie is by far one of my classic childhood memories, but this movie is okay. It has some flaws. It has some memorable moments. The villain, Green Goblin, is very memorable, but he's somewhat cheesy and evil at the same time. And as for the rest of the characters, they did okay. Tobey Maguire is by far one of my favorite, you know, actors who played a superhero, so that's all I have to say about this movie. The last thing I have to say is that this movie spawned two sequels, Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. Simple as that. This movie spawned a lot of video games as well. And on the VHS version, the music video of Hero by Nickelback appears, while on the DVD it appears on disc 1. So hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for both Rocky 2 and Spider-Man 2. Peace out and rock on.